Thank you so much, Mark. It's really such a joy to be here. I just find myself smiling, flipping through everyone's faces. So thank you all for joining us today. And as Mark already welcomed us into mindfulness, I want to again just invite us all to take a breath and just more fully arrive to this space in our day. Nothing to do for now. Whatever you might be in the middle of, whatever's already gone on today, whatever might be coming later, you can lay it down just for now. And welcome a more full presence into this moment here together. Just relaxing the body and really welcoming whatever's here, whatever mind state, heart state, whatever's in the body here today. Welcoming whatever's here with a sense of kind attention, kind interest. So I'm going to share a little teaching with you. My inspiration for today's sit was from this week's Parsha, Balak. And in this story, Balak, the king of Moab, he becomes fearful of Am Yisrael, and he hires a prophet Balaam to curse them. But when he takes Balaam to their dwelling place and he goes out to see them, the Torah says that God puts a word in his mouth. He puts a word in Balaam's mouth. And so instead of cursing them, he blesses them. And so Balak, of course, is very frustrated. And he tries two more times. He brings the prophet Balaam to a new vantage point, hoping that if he sees the encampment differently, then he'll see that they're not so great. They really need a curse. And he'll finally curse them. But still, Balaam blesses the people. And at the third vantage point, which should be the worst, and is actually described as a wasteland, that's where he gives the best blessing of all, the famous Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov Ishkanotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, Yaakov, your dwelling places, Israel. So it's ironic, right? The Torah describes this prophet Balaam as a man with an open eye. And I take this to mean that Balaam could see reality clearly, meaning that it didn't matter from which vantage point he was looking out at them, whether he was seeing them in all their glory from a high place or in that wasteland. He could see their holiness. And in that place of clear seeing, he was available in some way for God to put a word in his mouth, for the Holy One to speak a blessing through him. And I think that this has so much to do with mindfulness practice, this aspiration that we can see reality with openness, to see clearly whatever it is that we're seeing, whatever it is that we're experiencing on the spectrum of gorgeous and amazing and unpleasant or very challenging. To pay attention to reality itself rather than what we think about it, rather than our habits of interpreting it. And in so doing, creating an openness for our experience to emerge, to be fresh, to be new, to be in some way different than what we expected or thought. Really allowing it to be alive. And perhaps this openness in our perception, this open way of perceiving, is part of what makes us then available for something deeper to move through us in the way that we respond. So we know that the Jewish tradition constantly is emphasizing the sacredness and the importance of language, right? Words can be destructive, idle, distracting, unconscious. They can, in a way, be curses. They can bring negativity into the world. And they can also be creative and heartfelt and healing and beautiful. They can be brachot, they can be blessings. And then there are those words and actions and thoughts that God puts in our mouths. that God puts in us that flow from us naturally when we're in a place of seeing clearly, when we're open and available for that Ruach HaKodesh, for that holy wind to flow through us. And with this kind of clarity, no matter what we're seeing, no matter what we're experiencing or beholding, we can, like the Prophet Balaam, bring blessing into the world. And so I want to invite that sense of openness in our perception, in our practice today, that aspiration for clear seeing as we pay kind of gentle attention to what's happening, and practice doing so without analyzing, without judging our experience, but opening to a deeper and more abiding awareness that is here beneath the surface. So I thought I want to invite you to find your meditation posture. Perhaps you're already in it. And if it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes, or perhaps just rest your gaze, ground. And find that posture in the body that is both relaxed and also awake. So there's that sense of uprightness, alertness. We're present, we're here. We're also at ease, relaxed. And begin to notice the breath. You can find somewhere in the body where you can feel your breath, perhaps the nose, the lungs, or the belly. Bringing your attention to the physical sensations of the breath as you inhale and exhale. Just noticing how it feels to breathe. And choose one of those places in the body as a gentle anchor for your attention. So just rest the mind there. Paying attention to the breath, every inhale and every exhale. And perhaps from that anchor, from that place, including a wider awareness of the body. Just gently resting our attention in the present moment, in the body, the breath at the center. Very simple in a way, just breathing, just being. And as the mind wanders, no problem, no judgment. Just notice thinking is happening, like clouds moving across the sky, perhaps sensations or emotions. Sometimes the weather is sunny and beautiful, sometimes it's stormy, but it's always moving, never permanent. So just notice it, whatever's here. Kind interest. And gently return to the breath again and again. Returning to that anchor for the awareness. And this is the practice. abiding in this presence, abiding in this awareness, open eyes, observing whatever is here, knowing it, seeing it, feeling it, abiding in awareness, and then getting lost, carried away by a thought or an emotion or a sensation, gently coming back again and again to presence with kindness. Dropping any expectations, just allowing experience to unfold without needing to know why or what will happen. Simply breathing right here, right now. Gently returning to the breath, presence. And for the last couple minutes here, in the spirit of Balam, blessings, I want to invite us to feel into a blessing that we might want to offer ourselves in this moment. Is anything you're needing right now, and for the rest of the day, you want to offer yourself a hand, a heart, if you like. Sense into whatever that might be, if it's ease, softness, strength, confidence, patience, whatever it may be. Take just a few moments to bring to mind that sensation, that blessing that you'd like to offer yourself. Imagine that you're giving it as a gift to yourself. Imagine yourself feeling that way today, what that would feel like in the body. You can just spend the last minute of practice together saying to yourself, may I be blessed. May I be blessed with whatever you'd like to offer yourself. May I be blessed with you. May I be blessed with peace. May I be blessed with care. May I be blessed with understanding. And you could just take a couple more breaths. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Take your time. You can take a moment to just take in the space around you. Just notice how you feel. During our sit, the sun went down where I am in the world. Just noticing it's a little darker. Thank you all so much for your practice, for coming together here today to do this. And turn it back over to Mark. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your beautiful teaching and the presence and just what the doctor ordered on this end. Thank you so much. Friends, we seal our practice, as we always do, by offering an opportunity for those in mourning, those who are observing a yard site, or if you're carrying some grief, to join in the mourner's Kaddish, and for those of us who are not reciting Kaddish, to just be present and witness, supportive, loving witnesses, and invite those who would like to share the name or names of anyone you're holding in your heart today in the chat box. Join me in rising in body or in spirit for Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Yama Divra Chirute, V'yamlich Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yamechon, Uchaye Deval Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala V'zman Karim V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, L'olam Ulamei Almaya. Yitbarach, Yitabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitramam, Yitete, Yitadar, Yitalel, Yitalal, Shmei Dikdusha, Brifu, La'ela, Birchata, V'shirata, Tifchata, V'nechemata, La'amiran Ba'ama, Bimru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Mim Shemaya, Chaim, Leinu Yisrael, V'Amru, Amen. Yeshes Shalom Bimrama, Uyasa Shalom, Leinu V'Yalko Yisrael, Yalko Yoshvei Tevel, Imru, Amen.
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 Friends, thank you for joining us today. As always, I'm going to put in the chat box once again, for those who'd like to check it out, the link to Rebecca's website and also to the link to the Women's Retreat, online meditation retreat in August. Before we end, I also do want to remind people to consider joining us. Hope you'll join us for the Gift of Awareness. Again, the deadline for signing up is tomorrow. Or you might know somebody in your life who you think would be interested and would enjoy that, and please spread the word to those people. Or it makes a great gift for someone who you in your life who you think would benefit from Jewish mindfulness meditation practice. So do check it out. Deadline is tomorrow. As always, you're invited to stay on for a few minutes of conversation with Rebecca about today's teaching and about the practice. For those who are leaving us, I hope you'll join us tomorrow for our Friday sit into Shabbat. We'll be led by Rabbi Lydia Medwin, joining us from Atlanta tomorrow. Always lovely to sit into Shabbat together on Friday, so hope you'll join us then. Thanks to Adi Stein, as always, for holding our tech space with skill and grace. And thank you, Linda Josephs, for sponsoring our practice today in memory of your beloved parents, Rhoda and Stanley Josephs, on this, the occasion of your dad's 17th yard site. May their memories be always a blessing in your lives. And for those who are leaving us, we hope to see you tomorrow. So Rebecca, if you have a few questions, if you can hang around, that'd be great. Thanks for the birthday blessings, everybody. Really appreciate that. And hoping to be around for quite a while to share more with you. If you do have a question for Rebecca, please put it in the chat box. I'll try to keep an eye on it. So why don't we start with that, Rebecca, although I have a question, but let's start just with this question from Teddy about what do you mean by tikkun olam from the inside out? And I just want to probably give a shout out here to our friend, Rabbi David Jaffe, who wrote a book with that as the title. Is it mindful living out Torah, manifesting healing and repair of the world? Is it more about sparks or repair or other things? What do you mean by tikkun olam from the inside out, Rebecca?
Thank you. What a beautiful question. The answer is yes. Yes to all of that. So Kabbalistically, yes, there's a lot about sparks and raising sparks, and that's I'm not going to get into that,
Right.
although that's fascinating and beautiful. So what I mean by from the inside out is what I have experienced a lot in my own work, actually, for many years, really being involved in a lot of social activism and with a real passion for being of service and like seeing the need for help in the world and wanting to help people, and then getting really, really burnt out. And what I realized was that I was trying to enact that tikkun olam. I was trying to bring healing and help to other people in a way that was kind of leaving myself out of the equation. And so what I noticed in my own life is that when I start inside, when I am taking care of myself, when I'm starting from a place of self-awareness and responding lovingly and skillfully to myself from that place of awareness, I'm so much more equipped than to do that for others and for the world for so many reasons. One is that I really believe that what we bring to any kind of relational interaction is really what we have inside and what we are. So there's actually a teaching that I love from the Talmud. It says that Aharon was it was taught that he was a rodef shalom, meaning that he pursued peace among people, but he was also an ohev shalom. He was ohev shalom and rodef shalom, so both a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace. And there's a midrash that says, what does that mean that he loved peace? It meant that he had it inside of his own heart, and he had it inside of his own home and his own most intimate spheres. And that is what enabled him to go in and pursue peace among others. So that's what I mean by tikkun
That's
olam for the inside out.
that's really beautiful, and it gives us an opportunity also to lift up. By the way, for everybody who's here, if it needs to be said, that's really what we're aiming for through the work of IJS, and I know at Or Halev, is that the intent of this practice, mindfulness meditation, is not to retreat from the world or to disconnect from the world. Just the opposite, actually. It is to notice, as you're just saying so beautifully, the inextricable connection between what's going on in us and what's going on around us in the world, and to try to bring those into sync, and that we can't really separate those two. And so for those who may oftentimes, mindfulness organizations or practices get the bad rap, or sometimes it's justifiable, of navel gazing or checking out or retreating from the world. And I think it's very important to put out the other narrative that it's just the opposite. The purpose is to really, really be in the world as our full selves. I just wanted to tack that on because that was your beautiful explanation. And I love that about Aharon. And I would like to bring it back to the Parsha and what you said about Bilam and the clarity. But it made me think about the other part of the story about his journey, and of course this, the famous story with Bilam is about Bilam and his donkey, his ass,
Right.
who winds up being his teacher. For those who aren't familiar with the story, just really briefly, Bilam's on his way to curse the people, and it's going through this passageway, and it gets more and more constricted, and his donkey is blocked by the angel of God, who's standing there with a sword, and Bilam doesn't see it, but the donkey does. And first the donkey kind of tries to get out of the way, and then can't get out of the way, and finally just sits down, and Bilam starts yelling at the donkey and beating it. And it's just such a great passage where the donkey speaks. Here we got the speaking donkey who says, basically puts the question to Bilam and says, doesn't this seem a little unusual to you? Don't you remember? Aren't I the donkey you've been relying on all the time? Have I ever put you in danger? And he says, no. Oh, actually, no. And that's when the text says his eyes open, and he sees, what's really going on here. So I wanted to ask you, because this idea of him having clarity, right? Because there is a moment where he actually, it's the opposite. He doesn't see anything clearly, but there is something that he's attached to that the donkey represents that sees clearly and invites him to consider, is this consistent really with seeing clearly? And he says, oh no, it actually isn't. Oh, now I see clearly, right? It's just I just love it because it's such a fantastic mindfulness thing. So I guess I wanted to ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but what do you make of that? In terms of mindfulness meditation, what is what is the inner voice of the donkey that we're listening for there, that says, inviting, because it's really what is inviting us to open and see clearly?
Such a beautiful question. I love that part of the story. And what comes to mind also about the donkey is there's teaching that there were actually a number of things that were created on the first day of creation, like before the world was created.
Mm-hmm.
And Balaam's talking donkey was one of them. So I think it's generally agreed and known that donkey is a significant character in our Torah. I really like the donkey. And what feels most true for me personally in my own interpretation is that the donkey has to do with the body. And I think that in our lives, for so many reasons, especially as Westerners, and just where we are right now in this moment in history, we're in so many ways conditioned to hierarchize or prioritize or value really the mind and the intellect over the body. and that the body is something that is controlled or subdued in service to the mind. When actually, a much healthier and holier way of being is to be in more of a subjective relationship to the body, where we are actually in a relationship to our bodies, not treating them as objects, right? But really in relationship, listening. What does it mean to listen to the body? And so in the same way that the donkey is carrying Balaam, and he's been carrying him for his whole life, our bodies are carrying us, right? It's there's this Hasidic teaching that, or this little Hasidic story of the disciples are gathered around the Rebbe's deathbed, and they ask him, Rebbe, what was the most important thing, like object in your life? And they expect him to say, of course, the Torah. And he says, to their surprise, he says, my body. This is what we get. This is our vessel. This is what accompanies us from the moment we're born to the moment we die. And mindfulness is an embodied practice. So much of what we're doing in cultivating awareness is coming home to our bodies and learning the language of the body and how to listen to the body and even to trust the body, which is always on some level speaking to us and guiding us. And we, unfortunately, are often just kind of in the habit of being very distracted from its messages, which can be very subtle and which can be very not subtle. And I've certainly experienced a wide spectrum in my own body of subtle and not subtle messages and directions. So that's my drash on the
Yeah,
donkey.
that's a great drash, and I think that's such an important, because we need to keep underscoring that, this idea that and again, as we like to say, and as my friend Sam Feinsmith likes to say, just you got to check it out in your own experience, right? Don't take our word for it, right? The question is, really, do we notice that our body has the capacity to wake us up and alert us to see something that we need to see, right? Which is, putting the donkey in that role of representing, I guess you could think about it as like the animal soul, or the, some aspect of ourselves that has the wisdom to wake us up, as if we had a built-in alarm clock that chimes when there's something that says, notice this, see that, see this, and not fall asleep to it, not run away from it, not repress it, not deny it. So, and then the story becomes, when you do that, like of what would come out are words of curses, right? Which is what he's hired to do. And so, like, I cannot, there's nothing that can come out of me now but blessing, right? I can't, what can I do? It's an interesting theory of change, that if, like you said, if we have clarity, blessing is going to flow out of us if we can get ourselves out of the way. If we get ourselves in, get our mercenary self out of the way that's being hired to do a job, right? So, like,
right.
I love that.
Or I would say, even like, if we're seeing reality as it is, we're so much more likely to be moved to speak blessing, to affirm goodness, to affirm what is holy, to affirm what is true, to affirm what is loving. And I loved what you just said about that piece about the body, about the donkey seeing something that Bilam couldn't see, because I think it's totally true of our bodies.
Right.
The body is the seat of intuition. And I think our intuition is so severely underutilized. It's a small voice. It's that still small voice, right?
Exactly.
That's covered over so much by the media, by other people, by so much. And if we could learn to respect that wisdom that our body has, that the mind can't grasp, actually, that the mind is behind on, and trust that.
And that we as a people have a lot of work to do to recover that wisdom, because we have lived above the neck for a very long time, a lot of us. So we come by it honestly. Anyway, that's really, really, I think, important and beautiful. And just to connect it also as well with Sam, as people who are on, I think, probably know, about a month ago after Shavuot, led a week of experiencing meditation as a revelatory experience post-Sinai, sitting at Sinai, using the metaphor of Torah from the well, of wisdom kind of welling up within us through our attention to the body and to what's happening in the mind and awareness in general. And yeah, thanks, Elizabeth, for that note. I mean, whether, to whatever extent we as a people tend to live above from our necks up and disconnect from our bodies, we can also understand that as certainly residual from the collective long-term trauma that we have experienced as a people that can show up in that way. We can have a lot of compassion for that reality instead of judging ourselves to the extent that that happens. So this is a gentle invitation, I think, Rebecca, that you're giving us, I think, to remember that, to remember the body as the seat of intuition and wisdom, and gently inviting us, as the donkey doesn't really yell back at Balaam, right? Even though it could be justified.
Yeah.
He does it with a question. He does it with like a good Jewish question, right? How long you been riding me? Have you ever known me to do anything like this? Oh, and then immediately, and it's a lot of the same language there too that's used throughout the Torah, right? Where all of a sudden there's an epiphany, where Hagar sees the well, and Abraham sees the ram, and the eyes are opened. Something is revealed. So this really is a practice where more and more over time is revealed, and it's been a real joy and blessing to share this with everyone who's still on today. And thank you, Rebecca, so much for adding your presence and voice and teaching to this. And so glad that people who may not have met you yet as a teacher are getting an opportunity to do that. And I know that people are really blessed to have you in that role. And so thank you for that. Thanks, Adi. Thanks to Linda for sponsoring our practice. And so Rebecca, we hope you'll come back and lead us again sometime when the schedule allows for you. And for everybody else, we hope to see you tomorrow for practice with Rabbi Lydia Medwin, same time. So Erev Tov in Jerusalem, Rebecca.
Thank you, Erev Tov, and happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing some Yerushalayim vibe with us too. It's always good. We need it out here.